amazing group of drivers from all disciplines and all champions.
The saying, "Success has many fathers," is a warning against false pride. But success in the 24-hour sports car classic at the World Center of Racing takes lots of parenting in the form of skill, effort, preparation, courage, and luck. For 45 years, the world's best drivers, teams, and car builders have made a midwinter pilgrimage to Daytona Beach, Florida. They come to accept the challenges of the world's toughest twice-around-the-clock race. Challenges including speed, weather, darkness, contact, fatigue, and breakdowns, both mechanical and human. Their goal is not merely to endure, but to win, to beat the clock, and earn a prize known around the world as the symbol for mastering time. Welcome to the 46th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Once again, the racing season is upon us, and once again, driving champions from around the world have gathered in Daytona. This is the countdown to the Rolex 24, powered by the Pontiac G8 on Fox. Nearly 300 drivers from 24 countries, including champions from all forms of auto racing, are here at the World Center of Speed, truly putting the international in Daytona International Speedway. Hello, everybody. I'm Bob Varsha. Welcome to Daytona International Speedway. The most revered names in racing are the drivers who are all-rounders, who succeed in several different types of race car. This is the race where those reputations are made, and this is its symbol. The beautiful stainless steel Rolex Daytona timepiece that will go to each of the winning drivers in the race about to unfold. Now, in the 45-year history of this race, no team has ever won it 3 straight years. Mighty Ganassi Racing is going for that trifecta this year. To do it, they'll have to overcome a host of obstacles, not the least of which are the defending series co-champions from Bob Stallings' Gainesco Racing. Those two teams battled to a bruising conclusion in last year's championship. Leading the star-studded two-car Ganassi effort is veteran Scott Pruett, the winningest active driver in Rolex 24 history. He'll be joined by 2007 Indy 500 and IndyCar Series champion Dario Franchitti, former Formula One driver and now NASCAR star Juan Pablo Montoya. The sister car features IndyCar champions and Rolex 24 winners Scott Dixon and Dan Weldon. For their part, the Gainesco team is led by series co-champions John Fogarty and Alex Gurney, son of racing legend Dan Gurney. They're joined for this 24-hour enduro by open-wheel champion Jimmie Vasser and Jimmie Johnson, the two-time and defending NASCAR Sprint Cup champion. Last year's title for the Rolex Championship culminated in the final race of the season in Utah, where the two-team cars collided not once but twice, the second incident earning Pruett a penalty and a controversial one. But it launched Gurney, Fogarty, and the Gainesco team to the title, and it was a bitter defeat for Pruett to swallow.
Disappointing end. I mean, I expected a lot more out of those guys, but, you know, I guess stupid people do stupid things.
Well, Scott Pruett is the winningest driver in Daytona 24-hour competition here with 7 victories, 2 of those overall, including the victory here last year. But Scott, it was a season of highs and lows, winning the big one and then losing the championship in the finale. Are you and this team over that as you start a new campaign here today?
Absolutely, we are over it after a couple weeks. It was, you know, it's hard to get down to the end like that. The Ganassi guys did a great job. Tell my guys hi to my kids at home. But you know, as we focus now, I mean, we really turned the corner, and we got here for testing, the first test in November, then the one in December, on to January. Our focus was a 24-hour. The Ganassi guys have done a terrific job here, and the car's good. The car's real fast.
Well, in victory lane last year, Scott was joined by Juan Pablo Montoya. And Juan, after the race, you told your boss here, Chip Ganassi, that was the toughest race you've ever had to endure. Give us your perspective from the driver's seat and what it's all about in a 24-hour race as we start a new one.
It's a tough one, you know. It's like you're going into it, you just wait and see what happens. With this weather, it's going to be a hard race again. You know, it's going to be dry, wet. So we'll see. It should be pretty interesting. I think the car is very well prepared, and everybody, you know, at Ganassi Racing, you know, the Telmex and Target car here should be a pretty good car.
Well, there's a certain irony in the fact that the two guys who took this car to victory lane here last year were then in battle just a couple of months later down in Mexico City. And as you'd expect from two fierce competitors, guess what? They were banging fenders down there going for the victory. Eventually, Juan Montoya pushed his way by and got the victory from Scotty. And I know there's a little bit of frustration after that event, but this race is all about chemistry, Juan. Have you put that behind you, ready to win another one for Chip here, third in a row?
Well, you know, I think Chip put us in the same car so we couldn't crash into each other anymore.
All right, mate, best of luck, and certainly a star-studded lineup here. Memo Rojas in the car, and of course, Dario Franchitti. Dario, Tiger Woods is talking about going for the Grand Slam this year. Right now, you got the Sebring 12-hour trophy on the mantelpiece, Indy 500, IRL Championship. How about another one here today?
Yeah, it would be good. It would be good, but it's going to be difficult. This race is difficult enough, but with the conditions, with the rain and stuff, it's going to be tough. But good teammates and a great team here, so hopefully I can do my part.
All right, mate, best of luck.
Thanks, Calv.
Well, the only team that came out on top of these boys here over the course of last season were the Gainsco team. For more on that story, let's go down to my mate, Brian Till.
Thanks, Calvin. You know, at the end of the 2007 season, the Gainsco team walked away with their maiden victory and the championship in the Daytona prototype class. But in 2006 and 2007, the Rolex 24 was not kind to this team. Bad luck all the way around. Alex Gurney, you won the championship last year in the Daytona prototype class. But when you look at the Rolex 24 and the things it's done to you in the past, you feel like this track of this race owes you something.
Not really. I don't think you can ever ask that of this race. You know, it's says a little bit about how difficult this race is, and it's starting to rain now. Can you believe that? Anyway, we're really happy to return as champions, and we think we got a great race car and got some great teammates, and we're ready to go racing.
Well, John Fogarty shared that car with Alex Gurney all last season. John, you left here. You won 7 of the 13 rounds remaining in the championship. But when you look at it, how do you put the bad luck behind you? For the team and for the driver lineup, how do you put it behind you and focus on 2008?
Yeah, we just try to build on the success that we had in the remainder of the season after the 24-hour race. But with the crowd like we have here today, it's pretty easy to forget about anything else and just be focused on today's race. And with the crew we have and our teammates, you know, we feel good about our chances.
Well, Gurney and Fogarty champions, certainly another champion in this 99 car. Jimmie Johnson, one of the best-known names in North American motorsports. Won 2 NASCAR Cup championships in a row, going for 3. Now, the season starts in just next week. A lot of guys in your position would be laying on a beach somewhere, rested up for the season. You're not. You're here. Why?
I love driving race cars, and to have an opportunity to come down and run with these guys, it means a lot to me, and I know that they have a lot on the line, not only in this race, but for the whole year. And looking forward to doing my part and doing a good job for them.
Well, the Gainsco team, Vassar, Johnson, Fogarty, Gurney, champions all. They've got the trophies. They've got the championships. The one trophy they're all missing, the one you can wear on your wrist, Bob.
That's right. Thank you, Brian. And you heard Alex Gurney mention it. It's starting to rain, but these are sports cars, and they will race in the rain. The minutes are ticking away to the start of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Later on in the program, we'll hear from Indy 500 winner and Dancing with the Stars champion, Helio Castroneves, right there. But after a break, we'll meet the surprise front row for this year's race, so stay with us. The countdown to the Rolex 24 is powered by the first ever Pontiac G8, the official car of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. And brought to you in part by Rolex. Rolex, a crown for every achievement.
You're racing against a lot of people. You don't know what they're like.
The differential in speed is massive.
You're in the car, you just want to drive the wheels out of the car.
You can't just cruise around out there and win this race.
You actually have to run flat out for all 24 hours.
This thing is tough.
You have to be very, very careful.
That any second you can get caught in a wreck that's not your fault.
If just one piece fails, the game's over.
The Rolex 24 is more than just a race. When the sun goes down, the action heats up, not only on the track, but off. In the carnival, in the infield fan zone, and particularly at the Pontiac Garage, where bands will be performing live throughout the event to come, including the group Sum 41. Will be right there on the stage in the Pontiac Garage performing their hit, in too deep? And that sounds like the kind of question drivers might be asking themselves as they line up for the 46th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Now, there you see the time remaining before the start of the race. They'll all head down into turn one, and normally the pole sitter has to worry about his back. But that is not the case necessarily this year, because starting next to the pole sitter on the front row is his teammate in the sister car. Let's get more on that story with Chris Neville.
Well, Bob, Ford and Mike Shake Racing flexed a little muscle in qualifying and grabbed that entire front row. Now, Oswaldo and Negri might not have the following of Jimmie Johnson, but he's always impressed his sports car competitors with not only your outright speed, but your passion for the sport. Oz, it's going to be a tough race in front of us. What is it going to take for this team to get that coveted watch?
Absolutely. Our Westfield Insurance Ford Rally was perfect in qualifying. I connected the dots for one lap, and we've got to do it for 24 hours. Just keep on the dark part. Conditions are a little bit tricky, but, you know, hopefully we will succeed and get it done.
Well, next to him, like we said, it is his teammate, AJ Allmendinger. AJ and Oz have known each other many years. AJ, you were an open-wheel star, made that transition to NASCAR. It was a tough one. This second-place qualifying, is that a bit of fresh air?
Well, I mean, it was last year, we know for everybody at Red Bull Racing, it was difficult, but it was a new year. We had a great test. Now we're here starting the front row outside with Michael Shank Racing, and so far so good. We got the speed to win this thing. Now we just need some luck our way.
Well, this team is very optimistic. They're looking to put Ford in victory lane. The last time teammates started on the front row, 1995. Bob?
Thanks very much, Chris. Now, among the 4 past winners of the Indy 500 in the field is this guy, Helio Castroneves, who spent his offseason winning the Dancing with the Stars contest with Julianne Hough. And, of course, enjoying the traditional Indy milk in the Dancing with the Stars victory lane. Let's hear from him now with Calvin Fish.
Well, Bob, one of the big stories here this weekend is, of course, the return of Roger Penske as an entrant in this race. One of his drivers, Helio Castroneves. Now, Helio, I understand when Roger said, we need you in the car this weekend, you said 2 things. I want Marie Osmond as my teammate and sequence on the driver's suit.
No, actually not. Actually, the dancing still a little bit behind now, and probably it's over now. And I have actually Kirk and actually Ryan, so we're going to be doing everything we can to put this machine right up front and obviously have a day. So it's going to be a long day, so hopefully we'll be in good shape.
Starting 13th, you're right in the middle of the DP pack. What do you have to do to be patient here? What does it take?
Oh, definitely the conditions is one of those, the toughest one. It's not dry, it's not wet, it's damp. So we actually going to take it easy. You know, it's we don't want to take any chances because we know in the end we need to wait for the race to come to us. And experience paid off last year. Hopefully it will help us this year.
All right, mate, best of luck.
Thank you.
And joining him in the car is none other than Kurt Busch, former champion here in NASCAR, of course. And Kurt, your 2 teammates, IndyCar boys, say these cars, they're big, they're heavy, they don't turn. But for you, it's a totally different story, right?
It is. I'm coming from a different discipline, and so these things are much easier to drive for me. The braking power is incredible, and I love the different challenge that this race brings. And so it's a very prestigious race to win, and I've got great teammates like Ryan and Helio, and of course driving for the captain, Roger Penske. We're going to have a lot of fun today.
Have a great run.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Calvin. Both Kurt Busch and Helio Castroneves, along with teammate Ryan Briscoe, are racing for that man, legendary team owner Roger Penske. The first time we've seen a Penske car in the Rolex 24 in some 35 years. Roger Penske competed in the race as a driver, the first sports car event at Daytona in 1962. And he won here as a team owner in 1969 with drivers Mark Donohue and Chuck Parsons. Since then, of course, he's become the winningest car owner in Indy 500 history with 14 wins and fields teams in IndyCar, NASCAR, and the American Le Mans Series. Speaking of Le Mans, 4 winners of that race in today's event, one looking for his first Rolex watch. He's with Brian Till.
Well, Bob, when you talk about international sports car stars, no one comes with a bigger reputation than the Wiescott, Allan McNish. And, Allan, you've won everything. You've been voted as one of the, if not the best sports car driver in the world. You've won Le Mans. You've won Sebring. Daytona, it seems to have eluded you overall. What would it mean to win this?
Well, it meant a lot. Daytona is a very historic race, obviously, and finishing second twice in succession. That was tough to take, I can tell you. We come back here to try and win, but it's a 24-hour one. It's a hard one, and I think we're in a pretty good position to give it the best shot.
Well, you talk about this being a difficult race to win, and we're standing here right now on a grid that's just partially damp. I mean, from a driver standpoint, from a team standpoint, when you look at the weather that we've got facing us right now, it's not 24 hours of nice and dry. It's going to be on and off. What does that do to a driver's approach?
Well, I think some people have gone with slick tyres and some people have gone with wets. We've gone with wets. We've gone with this sort of cautious approach at the start with the knowledge that it is 24 hours and we can shunt it up in turn one. That doesn't do us any good whatsoever. So I would say this race is going to start at midnight, not before.
Well, Allan McNish certainly knows how to win the big one. We'll see if he can add the Rolex 24 to his list.
He does know these sorts of races. Thank you, Brian. The clock continues to tick down to the start. A big crowd on hand here at Daytona International Speedway. You're looking live down in the pit lane as it is now cleared, and the teams and drivers are left with their cars and their final thoughts before the race begins. Now, Kurt Busch and Jimmie Johnson are not the only NASCAR champions who have come here to try to win the Rolex, and none of them have succeeded. 15 in all. Some of the big names in recent history who've come here to race. How about the late Dale Earnhardt, who drove a Corvette to second place in class in 2001. Last year, four-time NASCAR champ Jeff Gordon made his Rolex 24 debut, learned a few hard lessons, and his team finished third. The most dramatic failure to win, Tony Stewart in 04, was within 20 minutes from a Rolex watch when a broken suspension sent him crashing into the wall and out of the race.
It's the ultimate test of endurance.
It takes a real team effort to win this.
It's a race that I find is extremely challenging.
Every piece is critical.
The countdown to the Rolex 24 is powered by the first ever Pontiac G8, the official car of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. 2007 was another great year for Pontiac Motorsports in Grand Am. The 99 Gainsco team led a Pontiac sweep of all three Daytona prototype titles for manufacturer, team, and driver on the strength of a series record 10 victories. Pontiac also launched the GXPR GT car at the Rolex 24, finishing second and capturing 3 wins over the rest of the season. Now we have a strong family element to this year's Rolex 24. There are 6 drivers in today's race who have fathers who have won in the past. Two-time champion Wayne Taylor's 2 sons, 18-year-old Ricky and 16-year-old Jordan, are at separate cars. The late Mark Donahue's son, David, is racing. Graham Rahal, son of 1981 winner Bobby Rahal. Justin Bell will race with 3-time winner his father, Derek Bell. And Alex Gurney, whose father Dan won as a driver in 1962 and later on as a team owner. He is the Grand Marshal for this year's Rolex 24. Now, let's get the command to start engines from the legend Dan Gurney.
What's that? Right now? Drivers, start your engines. It wasn't
And once those engines have started, they hopefully won't stop for 24 full hours of racing, turning more than 7 million revolutions in all. It's all a part of the numbers story of the Rolex 24. Now as the engines fire up, let's meet the man who will call the start of the 46th Rolex 24 in our announced position high above start finish. Here's Leigh Diffey.
Thank you, Bob, and I don't think Dan Gurney will balk when it's time to wave the green flag. That's not too far away, but more importantly, not far away is when the clock starts, and it will not stop for 24 hours here at Daytona International Speedway. This is a sports car racing examination that is unconditional, unsympathetic. Not one team member, not one driver, not one car can hide. They are all put under the microscope here in this grueling test. 66 cars will take the start shortly here in Florida. Not all 66, of course, will finish tomorrow. 2 classes on the track at the same time. The purpose-built race cars, the Daytona prototypes and the GT, the more street-style production-based cars. Cars like Pontiacs, Porsches, BMWs, and of course Mazdas. Yes, the Mazda RX-8, there it is there from the Florida-based team. The Speed Source organization claimed the pole with the team principal Sylvain Tremblay at the wheel. One of our expert analysts is David Hobbs. David, it wouldn't be the Rolex 24 without you. Great to see you again. This field that is assembled today is one of the best, and it really seems as though the International is back at Daytona.
Well, of course, when Bill built the track in the first place, he called it International Speedway, and in 1962, that first road race had international stars like Jimmy Clark and Sterling Moss, joining American heroes like A.J. Foyt and Fireball Robertson. Through the 60s and 70s, it attracted big fields of overseas stars who wanted to start the racing season off in the winter down here in Florida. Well, when Jim France, Bill's younger son, formed Grand Am a couple of years ago, he really wanted to put this race back on the top of the international standings ladder, and with 25 drivers from 25 different countries, and with winners from every discipline of racing, this is the most star-studded field we've had for years. It's going to be a doozy.
Well, under the motorsport umbrella, you talk about various disciplines. Dorsey Schroeder is our second expert analyst. Dorsey, there are so many disciplines represented here. Formula One, NASCAR, Champ Car, IndyCar. As a former driver yourself, what kind of feelings does that evoke for the likes of Dario, Franchitti, Jimmie Johnson?
Well, every driver wants to do his very best. He wants to be at the top of the ladder. What better way to find out where you fit than to race against the best drivers in the world? That's what will happen here today. All these guys have big egos. This race is fuel for that fire.
And it is a brutal test, and this is where it will be played out.
Daytona International Speedway, possibly the ultimate roval. Half road course and a half oval. Of course, it's known best for the four-corner, 31-degree banked super speedway. And in 2 weeks' time, Fox will proudly present to you the 50th running of the Great American Race, the Daytona 500. But what happens if you went to the infield with a mile of asphalt and 8 corners? You would be setting the playing field for the Rolex 24. Now watch it when you get down into turn 1 and 2. This is a tricky area. You'll be in top speed, top gear, 5th or 6th, running about 190 miles per hour. Hard braking. You've got to get the car down to about 55 miles per hour and get it into first gear. Quite narrow at the exit. You have to watch it here as you run down the chute to turn 3. The International Horseshoe is the slowest corner on the track. It's also the slipperiest, and a lot of drivers will be embarrassed tonight on cold tires how easy it is to spin the car. From the slowest part of the racetrack to the fastest, the daunting left-hander, the dog leg. Now this is a driver commitment kind of a corner. Every racetrack should have one. Braking for turn 5, you really slow the car down back to first gear. It's a constant radius right-hander, but you're thinking ahead to turn 6. The second most important corner on the track takes you off of the flat infield and onto the banking. Through NASCAR turn 1 and into turn 2, you thunder down the back straightaway, headed for what we call the bus stop. A great overtaking place. However, a lot of mistakes are made here. Cars will fall off the road. They'll bring gravel, sand, all sorts of things, and turn this into a virtual skating rink. Through there, you come back on the back straightaway and you let the big dog eat. Up through NASCAR turn 3, third turn 4, a lot of speed coming down the tri-oval and the checkered flag. Sounds easy, right? Now do it for 24 hours without a mistake. Look at these daunting records from 06, I should say. 734 laps, 500 gallons of fuel, 22,000 plus gear shifts, 7.5 million revolutions on the engine. But the important one, stay awake, stay sharp. 30 cases of energy drink.
And one driver trying to create his own personal record here today is standing by with Chris Neville.
Movie star, television star, Patrick Dempsey will be taking his first Rolex laps here in just a couple of hours. Patrick, you've got an award-winning television show. You released 2 movies last year. You and your wife had twins. Right. Most would say that's a full plate. What are you doing here?
Oh, I just love it. This is a great sport. This event in particular is where we always have had a goal to get to. To be here this year, it's incredible to see who's in the field, and to be racing with everybody that's here is just, it's a dream come true. I love it, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
Well, we've got a massive GT field, and it's going to be great to watch Dr. McDreamy slice his way through.
No question about that. Thank you, Chris. Well, the time for talking is over. The practice and qualifying are in the books. The field is on course. It's time to go racing. After the break, Leigh Diffey and company will have the call of the 46th Rolex 24 at Daytona. Stay with us. The green flag is coming.
Winning this race would be a dream come true.
It's the most difficult race in the world. Everybody wants to win it. I'm very honored to be part of it.
I'd love to put another Gurney in the record book.
Pontiac is introducing the first ever G8 as the official pace car of today's race, and giving one of our lucky viewers the chance to win their own G8 by going to Pontiac.com, win the G8. as we switch up gears to talk now about the Pirelli keys to the race. David Hobbs, let's start with you first.
Well, my first key, of course, is to stay out of the pit lane, except when it's absolutely necessary to fuel it and change the tyres. And we've already got 12 cars in that pit lane who are going to be held now for another lap until the race starts. So they're getting off to a terrible start. These cars are so reliable, they're so fast, you cannot afford any extra time in pit lane.
Dorsey, your thoughts?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, 66 cars in 2 classes reads traffic to me. This race cannot be won, no matter how good you are, until 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. If you get feisty in traffic and have an accident, forget about it. Stay out of the pits, like David said. And weather, I'm going to add that one in there. Weather can be a real problem here. We've had a track that's damp right now. Decisions that were made wrong are going to pay right now.
All right, an update from the lane, Calvin.
Well, a bunch of these drivers started out on wet tyres, trying to be a little bit conservative over a 24-hour race. Well, they immediately dived to pit lane for slicks, realizing it was too dry. The problem is they held them at the end of pit lane and let the whole GT field go by. Chip Ganassi Racing was screaming at the officials down here, you have to let them go, you have to let them go. We've got to fight our way through that GT field. So the action already starting here before we even see the green.
Wow.
That's what I was just talking about, the weather. These teams made the wrong decision. Now, they can't go out there on those wet tires because they wouldn't last 3 laps. They have to do what they've done here, but what a penalty to pay, David. They're going to be behind the entire GT field.
Well, I think that there's been a very big error made here. They should have done that first lap and then come in and stop, because now they're going to be held for basically 2 laps while they have to wait for the entire field to come by again. So they've lost a huge amount of time. They should have done the first lap and then come in and do it.
And you've got to wonder, for the 2 laps that they sit there, will they overheat, or are they going to turn the engines off and risk not being able to restart?
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing about the 24-hour race. There's all sorts of things can go wrong. Many a slip, twixt cup and lip, as they say. I don't know who said it, but somebody said it.
Certainly don't want to start the race with an overheated engine.
There's 14 cars in the pit lane right now. One of whom is Patrick Dempsey's, unfortunately. His GT Mazda is there.
Well, you got the 99 Gainesco rating champion there. You've got the Ganassi car in there. You've got some good cars and driver combinations.
Ganassi about to blow a blood vessel last week to try and get him out.
Drama before the green flag has even flown here at Daytona International Speedway. It is an all Mike Shank Racing front row. Big decision this year to switch to the Ford power plant, and it has paid off for this small team from Ohio. It is not often you see a field assembled like this in sports car racing, so enjoy it. The best drivers in the world are here in Florida to fight it out for 24 hours in the Rolex Sports Car Series, and the green flies from a legend. Let's go!
Be very conservative getting into turn 1. Nobody knows what the grip level is. It's still
a bit damp down there, yeah, exactly.
Oh, trouble on the start. Coming out of the pits, I think we had a bump with the Ganassi car. The 91 and 01 might have made contact there.
So they've been released before the GT field has started. So it's okay for the Daytona prototypes, but the GT field is coming round. They've received the green flag.
And trouble.
And trouble already on braking there. Somebody put their wheels on the damn spot, and a lot of carnage in that GT field.
Big damage to the right rear of that particular Porsche. I don't have the number yet, but it's got a right rear wheel knocked off.
Looked like one of the autometric Porsches. It is. It's the 14. So that is not a great start for the Friedman team. So what a dramatic start to this year's Rolex 24 at Daytona. It is Oswaldo Negri who leads the way. Troubles for the 29 as well. For Scooter Gable in the Allegra Motorsports car, the team that won the GT class last year.
That rear tire's flat.
Yeah,
he got nailed on
that wheel's bad on that car. Look at the replay. This was mass chaos here as they all get stacked up. There's contact. It all starts here.
Now that's Scooter Gable hitting Anthony Lazzaro in the 14. And boy, that is not the way you want to start a 24-hour endurance sports car race. Not even at turn 1.
That is embarrassing. There's no excuse to crash a car before it starts finish line on a 24-hour race.
Well, it's like still the same thing, you know. Don't win it at the first corner, win it at the last one. And these guys just record book 101 doing it completely wrong.
Now, last we saw this car was only in turn 3. He's still got a good 2 miles with that car to get it back to the pits, and it's going to scatter debris all over this racetrack.
Meanwhile, at the front, AJ Allmendinger has taken over the lead of this motor race and will lead the first lap of the 46th running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Max Angelelli is putting the pressure on Oswaldo Negri. Looks to the inside in the SunTrust Pontiac Riley and takes second. And Matt Plum is now working on Negri as well. And here comes the famous 59, the Brumos Porsche. João Barbosa behind the wheel. On board with the Brumos car. And what a day it is. What a moment for Hurley Haywood as well. Brumos are very upbeat at this race meeting. They feel they have a strong chance with both cars.
And it's 35 years, of course, to the day that Hurley won his first race here.
And I want to take that back. It's not João Barbosa behind the wheel. It is, in fact, Hurley. So great start. Very aggressive. This looks good.
This car's run good throughout the entire week. We've watched this car be near the top or not the top of the sheet on most of these practice sessions.
Joey Hand further back in the Ruby Tuesday car. Great inside move from the Brumos Porsche. Matt Plum opened the door.
Oh, this is a mess here.
Oh boy, the 29 car is in very bad shape.
Well, in a strange twist, maybe history repeating itself, Scooter Gable crashed the Allegra Porsche last year, and they went on to win the GT class.
Now, one of the concerns you have in the 24 hours is debris off these crashed race cars. It's hard to avoid. It really is. It causes punctured tires, causes body damage. As you can see from the frontal look at these cars, there's no room for a piece to fit underneath it.
No, and these bodywork, this Kevlar and the carbon fiber bodywork, when it breaks, it shatters into very small shards, and it's really just like a knife, so it's very bad for tires.
That Allegra Porsche with Scooter Gable behind the wheel has come to a stop. Meanwhile, Max Angelelli is hunting down AJ Allmendinger. This in the 7. This is Matt Plum for Seagull Sport. Great battles for first, second, and third. Here comes Hurley Haywood in behind these two guys. So the pole sitter has lost 2 positions, now make it 3. Negri's been pushed back to 4th.
Well, Oswaldo's probably playing a pretty canny game here. He's not braking too late. He's keeping the car in one piece. He's nursing it. Obviously, he's not going to lose too much time, but he's just not going to get involved in a knockdown, drag-out race on lap 3 of a 24-hour event.
You know, this 24-hour race, you can ride for quite a long distance of this race. As long as you don't go a lap down, you can just keep going like he's doing right now. I think he's being smart and just running at his own pace.
Some of those DP cars that were held in pit lane are now starting to make some moves of their own. They were very lucky, I think, to be let out right behind the DPs before they let the GT cars through. Brian?
Well, guys, we saw him change rain tires to slick tires, but down here on the GT end, I also saw a lot of aerodynamic changes. Remember, if it's raining and you have those rain tires on, you want more aerodynamic downforce pushing you down on that wet track. Perhaps right now, Oswaldo Negri still has a lot of downforce packed in that car, even though he's on slicks. Cal?
Well, he certainly does, but he's dropping back through the pack a little bit. I'm here with his teammate Mark Patterson. Ozzy started from the pole, but he's lost a little bit of ground. Is that just a conservative start to this 24-hour race, or is he slow?
Slow is a four-letter word that I wouldn't use a lot around Oswaldo. He's clever, he's patient. We've got 23.9 hours to go. Not worried at all. Great to see AJ out front. Michael Shank team protecting the front.
After sitting on the pole, there was some damage that got on the car in one of the practice sessions. Is the car 100%, Mark?
Car's 100%. We put a wheel off in the one wheel off in the exit to the bus stop. Tore off a whole third of the front, but everything's fine. Absolutely fine.
All right, mate. Best of luck.
Thank you, man.
AJ Allmendinger, Max Angelelli, Matt Plum, Oswaldo Negri, David Donahue in the 58 runs in the top 5. Both Brumos Porsches in the famous colours and the distinguishing features. Orange on the 58, fluorescent green on the 59. Joey Hand in 6th for Ruby Tuesday Championship Racing. Tonas Kasimets in 7th, and Helio Castroneves is up into the top 8. Top 2 in GT. Look at this, the Mastercar Ferrari. Really pushed Sylvain Tremblay in qualifying, and you ride with the pole-sitting Speed Source Mazda right now.
Here's a close look at that turn 1. You can still see a few little damp spots, Dorsey, but it's not too bad really drying out. But of course, these guys set these cars up because it rained quite heavily a couple of hours before the start. You can see a little bit of water coming up from somewhere there, running around the curb. That's a good thing on that international horseshoe. You've got to keep a tight line there and let it really come out on the way out. Then here's the kink you were talking about, that very fast left-hander.
Yeah, that one gets your attention. You can do it flat out if you've got a good car on a good day, but boy, the consequence you pay if you get it wrong.
It's got to be well set up, because no sooner have you exited it, in fact, while you're still exiting, you've got to start clamping on the old binders for the West Horseshoe.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see some problems down there before tomorrow morning.
Christian Montanari leads the way in the Mastercar Ferrari, then Sylvain Tremblay. Spencer Pumpelly is the first of 7 TRG Porsches here in this race. 2 GT teams in Farnbacher-Lowell's and TRG, both running 7 cars. Huge commitment from those guys.
There's the 07 Pontiac poking his nose in there, the 06 at the back of this group. They didn't qualify as well as I thought they would. I was watching them practice. They looked awfully quick through the corners.
Well, the thing is that the frontal area of that Pontiac is very wide, and it's not really good on top end.
All right.
You're riding with Max Angelelli. Second place, chasing our race leader, AJ Allmendinger, who leads the way early on in the Rolex 24. You're watching Sports Cars on Fox. NASCAR returns to Fox beginning February 9th with the Budweiser Shootout. Then on February 10th, it's Daytona 500 qualifying, followed on February 17th by our own complete coverage of the 50th running of the Daytona 500. It all begins Saturday, February 9th, here on Fox. We welcome you back to the Daytona International Speedway. AJ Allmendinger, the young Californian who endured a very frustrating and testing and trying season in the NASCAR series last year. He said, I don't even want to tell you what I had to go through last year. He said, I feel a lot more equipped to tackle 2008. Let's head down to pit lane.
Well, one guy's under a lot of pressure here this weekend is Wayne Taylor. Wayne, you've been here before. You've won this race twice, but this weekend you got your young son in the car with you. Your other son, Jordan, is running in GT as well. Talk about the emotions.
Well, it's really overwhelming, especially at the start of the event. But really, it's a dream come true. And, you know, I have so many people to thank that made this possible. And, you know, we're just hoping for good weather in the race because obviously, you know, Ricky hasn't run in the wet and he's looking forward to getting out of there as soon as possible.
Talk about the association with Penske. It's great to see Penske back, and certainly as Penske Taylor Racing must give you a real buzz as well.
It really does, you know. I mean, to be associated with Roger is pretty incredible. And, you know, we've had association through Ryan Briscoe, and Roger felt that we talked a long time about doing this event, you know, and then when we got to Petit Le Mans, we decided let's do a joint venture. And, you know, thanks to all our partners, SunTrust, Toshiba, to make it happen. But he's incredible. He's raised all of our game.
He certainly has. Angelelli in the 10-car running strong. There is some concern here in the camp about a right front tire pressure that's not coming up to temperature. They're going to monitor that closely. He may make an earlier stop than necessary, boys.
On board with Helio Castroneves in the Toshiba Penske Taylor Racing Pontiac Riley. You're looking at the RVO Motorsports car up ahead. That is Tonis Kasemets, former champ car racer. Spoke with Justin Bell this morning. He said this guy is fast.
Good time to bring up the point that they're not any longer on the Hoosier tires. They are now on Pirellis. The tire is new for all of the teams here at Daytona. So that pressure that's not coming up is something that they need to monitor. No one really knows yet. There's no track record on this tire that you can go back and say this is what it's going to do.
Well, the Pirelli people were telling us yesterday that these tires do have to start off cold, around about 30, 32 PSI. And if you put it on hot, it needs to be around about 40, which is fairly high pressure for a racing tire. And some of the teams weren't following their advice exactly. So I'm sure as the weekend progresses, they will do.
Well, the tire design itself is much more aggressive. The cars are a full 2 seconds a lap faster than what they were before. But what will that mean in longevity? That's what we'll learn here.
Well, they're talking about double and even triple stinting these tires. So I don't think they think there's a wear.
Great aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV. And a reminder that NASCAR Hot Pass only on DirecTV puts you behind the wheel. Great shots of Kasemets pulling away. He is in a Pontiac-powered Riley. Right behind him, a car of exactly the same description. Another Riley chassis car behind, but that's the Porsche power plant. Hurley Haywood in the 59 for Brumos Racing. Then another Pontiac Riley. But we mentioned the two forms of classes of racing out here on track at the same time. But within the Daytona prototypes that we're riding with now with Helio Castroneves, there are a variety of power plants, a variety of chassis. For instance, it's a Riley with a Ford power plant leading this race. And then in third place, Matt Plum, it's a BMW-powered Riley. Joey Hand in a Porsche-powered Crawford sits in the top 6 and was very, very pleased that the team had so much confidence in him that he was able to qualify. This is the biggest moment of his young racing career.
We saw them overtaking a couple of the GT cars, which, as you said at the top of the show, there are two distinct racing classes in this, the DP prototypes we're looking at now, and of course the GT cars based on street cars. And we saw a glimpse then of the difference in speed as these guys went by those GT cars on the banking. Closing speeds very high, which of course gets particularly difficult in the night and or in the rain. And or in the rain at night. Not a good combo.
You know, the GT cars were warned during the drivers' meeting not to go 3 wide, because when they go 3 wide, they're about the same speed. They block the racetrack from behind. If a DP car is coming up, when they're 3 wide, there's nowhere to go around them.
Just saw Scott Pruett round up the 16. The Chiva Racing Coyote gets a position on Matteo Bobby. And then in the background, it's the 99, the reigning Daytona prototype champion, Alex Gurney, fending off Scott Dixon in the second Ganassi car. This is the car that Jimmie Johnson will drive over the next 24 hours.
And these, of course, were guys who stopped in the pit lane to change their tyres, which is why they're down in, 15th, 16th and 17th spot.
Yeah, the best of the runners who stopped looks to me to be the 91 of Mark Goossens back in 11th place. It's still AJ Allmendinger leading by just half a second over Max Angelelli. Matt Plum up to 3rd for Siegel Sports. That's an outstanding effort over our pole sitter Oswaldo Negri and David Donahue. One of those father-son combinations we were telling you about before, famous here at Daytona. He sits in the top 5. The Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by Pirelli. Power is nothing without control. And powered by the first ever Pontiac G8, the official car of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. And a beautiful car it is as that. As we check the Rolex clock, and we are away, and the countdown, which we will keep our eye on right through to this time tomorrow. So much will unfold. So much has already happened. If you're just joining us here on Fox, welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. This is the first round of the Rolex Sports Car Series, but it is a massive event in itself. The Rolex Series starts with its biggest event, and this is it. And you're watching the race leader, AJ Allmendinger.
Now they're getting mixed up in the GT traffic, and of course this is going to go on. It's 20 minutes into this race. They're already in the heart of the GT classes. And this is going to go on about every 20 minutes. You're going to catch up these same guys for 24 hours. It's tough going.
Super GT battle. The TRG Porsche of Spencer Pumpelly has taken the lead away from the pole sitter Sylvain Tremblay in the Mazda RX-8. Brand new car on the left takes the lead back from Sylvain Tremblay. And of the 7 Porsches that TRG are running, 5 are brand new, and Spencer Pumpelly has his hands on one of those. Wolf Hensler is 3rd. He's got by Christian Montanari in the Ferrari. So it's Mazda, Porsche, Ferrari. Then Johnny Molam, a former class winner. A former champ car driver, Jan Halen for Synergy Motorsport, runs in the top 5. And Diego Alessi in a Pontiac GTO-R.
And Max Angelelli is taking the lead. You see the 10 SunTrust car right there in front of AJ Allmendinger. That is for the position overall lead, and they're about to catch that GT battle we were just watching.
Max Angelelli, incredibly quick, incredibly well balanced in these cars. Just drives the wheels off them with the minimum of damage. He really is a superb driver here at Rolex.
Former series champion and a Rolex 24 at Daytona race winner. The Italian has a new teammate this year. Canadian Michael Valiente from Vancouver, British Columbia, will be his partner in crime for 2008. Max is very excited about having one solid driver for the entire year. He had as many as 5 teammates last year, and he felt that really interrupted his championship campaign. And of course, he shares this car with his good friend Wayne Taylor, Wayne Taylor's son, 18-year-old son Ricky, and Valiente.
Oh,
traffic, there's your point.
Yes, going into that bus stop on the back straight there.
So Max has, for a moment, some clear track ahead. Here is the replay of the pass for the lead.
Right now, going into trial, we're heading down to turn 1, a good drafting area. You see it right there. Max working to the inside. He's a master under braking, isn't he? And he gets the job done. Of course, AJ wasn't going to contest it either, not this early in the race.
No, absolutely not.
Well, we spoke a lot about AJ Allmendinger. and his path towards the NASCAR Sprint Cup. There's another young man following a similar path. Chris, isn't there?
Well, Lee, just a couple years ago, Michael McDowell was a rising star in this series. Last year, Michael, you moved into the ARCA series. You grabbed a handful of wins. You were hoping to go to Craftsman Truck this year, but that didn't happen. You got something bigger and better.
Yeah, no, it's just awesome right now. We announced this week that I'll be driving for Michael Waltrip Racing in a Toyota Camry in the Sprint Cup Series after Dale or Jared retires. I'll be hopping into 00, so it's unbelievable.
With your sights set on Craftsman Truck, then getting the call to move up to Cup, were you a little bit nervous?
Yeah, I am nervous for sure, but this is, you know, an awesome opportunity that I have to take, and just really excited and fortunate to have it.
Now, coming back here, what's it like to come back, see all the old faces, everybody, and get back started here at this race?
I love it. It's home for me. This is where I got my feet wet, and you know, I love the 24 hours. The best race there is, and hopefully we can pull off a good result for Spirit of Daytona.
Well, he's up against a lot of other champions today. Lee?
Great young man, great American talent, and with a big, big future. Here are our leaders in Daytona prototype and overall, first and second, just going by the top runners in GT. That is Sylvain Tremblay in the 70, Speed Source Castrol RX-8. And he's still fending off Spencer Pumpelly, Wolf Hensler.
See, one of the GT cars did not make the bus stop back there. He did the right thing. If you miss the bus stop, what you have to do is come to a stop at the exit of that and then rejoin the field, and that's what I saw happening.
Check out Allmendinger. Here comes AJ. Not content to sit in second place in the Ford-powered Riley. He's taking the fight to the Pontiac Riley of Angelelli.
Good draft you get here, you know, coming off that from the bus stop right back to turn one, you know, in a huge draft, and these cars do draft pretty well.
David, speaking of huge, this was a massive gamble from Mike Shank, the owner of the second place car, Car 6. He switched power plants from Lexus to Ford, and that is one of the new Riley chassis, the bodywork. The new design, switched it all in the off-season and put both cars on the front row. A gamble that paid off. February 17, the world's best drivers return to Fox to go door-to-door to see who will take home the checkered flag in the 50th running of the Great American Race. Fox Sports is the exclusive home of the Daytona 500, February 17, in high definition. We're back at Daytona, and we are under caution for the first time in the Rolex 24. The official pace car of the Rolex Sports Car Series, the all-new Pontiac G8, about to head out on track to pick up the race leader. Problems for the 9, the Penske Taylor, Toshiba Pontiac Riley, and there is debris on the racetrack. Helio Castroneves behind the wheel, and a right front tire that is deflated.
The debris on the racetrack is right down in front of us here in the tri-oval. It's down on the apron, but that's what's brought out the caution. You see the right front down on the 9 there. Helio trying to get back to the pits without shredding that tire. Of course, if the tire shreds, you're going to destroy the bodywork on the front.
David, we have some replays queued up, ready to go. Let's take a look at what happened to Helio Castroneves.
Oh, well, the tire had already gone down there, so he went through that the bus stop chicane on the back straight.
Listen here. It's shredded. Now that could be due to a puncture. You know, you lose the air pressure in these tires. They start to get soft. Yeah, and then all of a sudden.
Cal, what do you have for us?
Well, as you can see, severe damage to the right front of this car. Hopefully, there's no suspension damage. That's what takes an awful amount of time to fix. So the crew are going to work here. There's a little bit of a gray area here. We've got some new caution period rules where the pits are essentially closed when you get that yellow, and they want to stack the pack up before they allow anyone in the pit lane. But with the amount of damage that was to this car, Penske obviously had to make the call to bring Helio in. It'll be interesting to see if they get a penalty, which would be, if they are deemed to not be allowed in the pit lane right now, it'd be a stop-and-go penalty plus 20 seconds, which they'd have to serve under green. So that'll be a call that'll have to be made by the officials. Helio, as you can see, sitting behind the wheel, being patient. The key when you have a problem like this is not to drive back to the pit lane too quickly and do too much damage. So I'm surprised they haven't got the nose off the car. It must be tagged up there somewhere where they can't release the nose to really assess the rest of the damage on the car. Or maybe them, no, here it goes. So the nose is coming off now, has what we call a pigtail, which actually connects the headlights to the main monocoque chassis. And there you can see the intricacies of one of these Daytona prototype cars. Mechanic is assessing the damage. Roger Penske sits in the tower waiting to see what the call is.
You're watching the Rolex 24 at Daytona, round one of the 2008 Rolex Sports Car Series. Welcome to Fox's coverage. Leigh Diffey with you here, along with David Hobbs, Dorsey, Schroeder, Calvin Fish, Brian Till, Chris Neville and Andrew Marriott. Bob Varsha, of course, will call the action shortly as well. And quite a dramatic start here, folks, here in Florida. Even before the green flag flew, we had cars colliding before they got to the line. This is one of the more high-profile entries in the Daytona prototype category. Helio Castroneves, a two-time Indy 500 champion. Roger Penske coming back to Daytona to sports cars for the first time in 35 years, and not the start they were looking for.
Let me try to explain to the folks at home about this new caution procedure. You saw when the caution went out, the pace car looks for the overall leader. Once he gets the overall leader, what will happen next is the first time by the pit lane, the pits will open to only the Daytona prototype cars. Those are the only cars allowed on pit lane. If a GT car comes in, he's out of sync. Now, if that all works the way it should, on the second lap by, the GT boys then have their shot at getting to pit lane. So when you saw Helio Castroneves go in there probably early, he'll probably get that penalty that Calvin was talking about. It'll be a stop and go once we go back to green, plus 20 seconds in the pit box.
But I don't think he'll get a penalty, because quite clearly it would have been much more dangerous for him to have gone around the track with that tyre and the car coming apart, making it much more dangerous for everybody else. I can't imagine they'd give him a penalty for that.
To pit lane, Calvin, you're up first.
Well, I can't clarify that. The ruling is because the damage was to the car, that should be a freebie, but they did send him out without the nose. Meanwhile, the leader, Max Angelelli, is in, topping him up with fuel, 4-tire change, and this car has been really quick. They're not running the new Riley bodywork, which should be a little bit quicker around the speedway. Pruett finished their servicing. He's away. There's a wheel in the way from the Ruby Tuesday car. Tight action here on pit lane. Chris Neville.
Mark Dewson's also in the 91 coming to pit lane. He had started on the second row, but had to come to pit lane because they started on those wet tires. So he has been working his way up through the pack. The team not opting to put tires on, just fuel at this time. Gooson's down and away.
Down at the 23 pit, the Ruby Tuesday car is in. These guys really struggled during the test days and certainly during the early part of this weekend, but they got the car a lot faster. But this pit stop is not going well. Joey Hens started the race, has now turned it over to Bill Oberlin, but some kind of problem here on the right rear corner. And when these engines run under these conditions without the air going through the radiators, you can see underneath, immediately there's some fluid spill. It starts to overheat a little bit. Bill Oberlin being careful there, getting out of pit lane. He's underway.
First time we've seen the new caution procedures. That's the Daytona prototypes pitted. The GT cars will be up next, and several problems for a variety of teams. We'll be back. We've seen some wonderful aerial shots already here at the start of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and the aerial coverage brought to you by DirecTV, now broadcasting over 90 national HD channels, and it is great stuff. We are down in the lane. The GT cars are in for their round of pit stops.
Well, Seven Tremblay hits his mark in this newly sponsored Castrol Syntec Mazda. Hits the mark down here. They're going to go fuel and tires with this car. This team won 3 races last year. They're definitely a potent team out here, and this Mazda package is very fast. A lot more Mazdas here than last year. Everything seems to be going well, just waiting on fuel at the 70 car. Brian?
Fuel only for Spencer Pumpelly in the number 67 Racers Group Porsche. This is an experience with these new tires. Remember, guys, they don't know how far they're going to go. They're going to double stint them. Pumpelly's away, Calvin.
Well, the Stevenson Racing number 57 is in. The Pontiac GXPR driven by Robin Liddell right now. He's made the move over to this team, and they're very confident in this car. It shouldn't show that well on these high-speed banks of Daytona, but get it to a downforce circuit, this car will really strut its stuff. So he and Andrew Davis will do the complete season. Just waiting on the left side. They're clear. He's away.
We have about another 20 minutes or so here on Fox, followed by an additional 7.5 hours on Speed, and then some 8 hours to the conclusion of the race tomorrow. What a dramatic start it has been. Really hope you're enjoying it here on Fox. This is action-packed. It's the Fox NFL Super Bowl pregame show with musical performances by Willie Nelson and Jordan Sparks. Randy and Paula debut the world premiere of her new single. Ryan Seacrest live on the red carpet. And all our guys getting you ready for the big game. It all begins next Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 Pacific. High def only on Fox. We welcome you back to the Rolex 24 here at Daytona. We are still under caution. We'll make the most of that. Squeeze in another quick break. Come back when we go green. The racing continues. And what has been a very interesting start to this endurance classic. We'll be back in just a moment. The Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. And powered by the first ever Pontiac G8, the official car of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. We are back just in time to see the green flag fly, the end of our first full course caution period, and we're back to racing. And for the first time ever, this young man is leading a Daytona prototype and a Rolex Series race. Matt Plum out in front in the number 7 Siegel Sports BMW-powered Riley. 11 different combinations within the Daytona prototype class, 8 different variations in the GT class. That's what sports car racing is all about. Different chassis and engine combination and different production type cars in the GT class. Look how busy it is.
Boy, yeah, it is busy. It's going around the horseshoe there. And they're all mixed up with the GT cars, the DP cars. That's the Daytona prototype, which is the fast ones, purpose-built. The GT cars, based on the street cars, obviously, as you said earlier, Pontiacs, BMWs, Porsches, and the whole gamut out there. And now when they get all mixed up, just look at that traffic. We've got some bodywork hanging off one of those GT cars. That's number 80.
That is the Synergy entry. A little further back in the field. Gee, there's some great drivers. That's Jan Halen, who is pressing for a top spot in GT. We know him from open wheel days, but this is a new side to his career. Wish him well. He's chasing Dirk Werner, who is the defending GT Series champion and currently leads the GT class. We're on board one of the Brumos Porsches. This is good stuff. Talk about traffic. Talk about weaving your way through. This is what it's all about, and this is for the lead in the GT class.
And that's what they were told not to do in the drivers' meeting. Do not go side by side, 3 wide, and let a Daytona prototype get trapped in there behind you, and that's what we just witnessed happen.
This is how it happens. Once this caution is over.
It's so hard to know what to do because, I mean, I've driven those slow cars as well as the quick ones, and you spend your entire life looking in the mirror. Well, it's still doing 150-ish, so it's a good idea to look out the front every now and then, as well as just in the mirror.
Well, I agree. I think if you're driving in the GT car, it's a bit harder yet because, you know, you're running 150 as fast as the car goes, for sure, but you're looking in the rearview mirror because these guys are running 190.
Yeah.
Here's your running order. It's Matt Plum leads Alex Gurney, the defending champion of this series. Max Angelelli there in the SunTrust entry. Here he is, car 10, and he is being hounded by David Donahue in the Brumos Porsche. Team with his old teammate Darren Law and former Indy 500 winner Buddy Rice. That's the trio in the 58. Then it's Mark Wilkins in the exchange-traded gold car for AIM Autosport, another team who has switched from Lexus to Ford Power and have been reaping the benefits here at Daytona this year. We ride on board the 01. Scott Pruett behind the wheel.
The 01 was one of those cars that chose the damp tyre, the wet tyre, and had to make that stop on the pace lap. Lost them quite a few seconds, not as much as it might have done because they let them out before the GT cars started.
Of course, Scott Pruett, probably the most experienced driver in this entire field. That's saying a lot when you talk about who all's in this field, but Scott Pruett has driven everything. He's made a complete life, a career of this.
David Dorsey talking about tyres. It's a pertinent point because we welcome Pirelli to the series. Brian, what do you have?
Well, Lee, you guys were talking about different engine and chassis combinations, but they all run on the Pirelli tire. Now, we also talked about slick tires and rain tires. This is a racing slick. Notice there are no grooves at all on this tire, no tread. It's smooth, and that's because this smooth rubber gives you more contact with the race surface. It runs at about 220 degrees, becomes very sticky, provides great grip. But when the rain comes, this tire will not push the water out of the way. It'll ride on top of it. The cars will aquaplane. The drivers won't have control. When the rain comes, the water stands on the racetrack. You go to a rain tire. Big, deep grooves. They call them sipes. This channels water away, just like on your streetcar tires. But the other thing about these rain tires, the rubber is very, very soft. They channel away a lot of rubber. They give you a lot of grip. And when it rains, you go into the Pirelli rain tire.
But of course, on a day like today, when you have such changing conditions, when you move to those wet weather tires and it should dry out, it's very critical that you don't leave it too long to put the slicks back on, because those tires wear very, very quickly and become extremely slow. So it's a real toss it up. You've got to make it right.
Donohue pushing as hard as he can. Success here in this classic 24-hour enduro has eluded David Donohue and his teammates in recent years. Will it come their way? 35 years since an historic win for Brumos. At the top of this show, we told you all about the superstars from the variety of motorsport disciplines that pack this field. Well, what about a little team that could? Siegel Sports lead the way with Matt Plum. On the large scale of world motorsports, he's a relative unknown. We know him here in the States through some of the minor categories of Speed World Challenge racing. He is doing a fine job out in front. He leads Alex Gurney, Max Angelelli, David Donohue. And this is car 12, the RVO Motorsports entry. Pedaling away with Tonas Kasemets, the Estonian driver, behind the wheel. It's also the car where the father and son combination are competing. And Derek Bell, and Chris, you're with one of them now.
Yeah, Lee, you're talking about superstars and historic wins. Well, Derek Bell has 3 of those. And Derek, you're also looking for your 3rd run here with your son, Justin. What's it like to come back to this international event?
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, it was something I never imagined I'd do. And unfortunately for me, if that's the right word, Bill Lester went to another team and they phoned me up and said on New Year's Eve, and how about it? And I went, do I really need to do this? And then I thought, yeah, you know, it's a fantastic opportunity. I always enjoy Daytona. I love long distance races. And, you know, the stress isn't so great. I should be able to do 6 hours in 2-hour stints. And I love racing. I'd race every week if I could.
Well, since you're having a go, do you think our very own David Hobbs might kind of get the feeling for next year?
He's got a lot of working out to do, because that self-like figure needs a bit of work, Dave.
Well, it's great to see Derek back.
You dog, Derek.
Not only is he a 3-time winner of this event, he's a 5-time 24 Hours of Le Mans winner. And a special moment for him to share the 12 Daytona prototype.
Been a thorn in my side for 40 years.
Let's update you on GT. Dirk Werner leads the way for the Farnbacher Lowells racing team, and then Patrick Huysman for Synergy Motorsport and Dave Murray for the Autometrics Porsche team. That's the top 3 in GT. Calvin?
Well, we talk about famous fathers here. We've also got some famous sons here. Young Graham Rahal, just 19 years of old, and son of Bobby, who won here back in the 80s. You really got a great career of your own going here. What would it mean to get that 24-hour race so early in your career, Graham?
Well, I mean, I've been trying for the last couple of years, and for me, it would just be an honor to win this thing. And I mean, forget Dad's side of things. I mean, just as a driver, you really want to win this race, Sebring, Le Mans, Indy. Those are the big races. So for sure, I'm hoping we can get one under our belt.
Certainly making a name for yourself in single-seaters. Had a great run last year in the Champ Car Series. But in this form of racing, how disciplined do you have to be as a youngster to really try and make sure that you get the car to the end of this?
It's tough, because you know if you don't make it until tomorrow morning, you've got no shot of winning. So at this point, this stage in the game, you just really have to be patient, make sure that you're saving the car and hoping that it's going to be there tomorrow. I mean, I really think, you know, with this team, we've got a great shot at this. So as long as we save it, we should be there at the end.
He should be there at the end. They certainly showed the speed in qualifying with Negri putting the 60 machine on the pole, Lee.
Yeah, great guy, great young driver, and we wish him well. Here is the overview of the like father, like son situation, if you wish. The Gurneys, the Donohues, of course, the late Mark Donohue, sadly not with us anymore. The Rahals, the Bells, and the Taylor trio, Ricky, Jordan, and Wayne. We wish them well. And to further that, Matt Plum, our race leader, while his father may not be a famous motorsport figure, his father was an Olympian in the equestrian event. And he continues to lead this race. Dan Gurney getting there for that inaugural win when it was known as the Daytona Continental back in '62. And in 1993, as a team owner with Dan Gurney's All-American races, the Toyota Eagle. What a very proud moment for the man. Race leader Matt Plum It is the only BMW power plant in this field. What an ad for Matt Plum's talents and BMW.
Well, let's talk about that for just a moment. We're talking about different chassis in the Daytona prototype category. Well, you have a choice of 6. Most of these chassis are pretty much identical, to be quite honest. There's not much variance. However, on the engine side of things, you have 5 different engine or power plants that you could go through. In this particular race, there's 4 Porsche engines here. There's 13 Pontiac engines, 4 powered by Ford, the 1 BMW we just talked about, and then 3 Lexus-powered engines. All these engines are made very, very near equal by a series of different dynamometer runs. One an engine dyno, the second a chassis dyno that takes the rear wheel speed, and then the third an inertia dyno, which is a brand new type of dyno that measures how long it takes for the car to go from its low speed to its high speed.
And what you do your daily exercise on, Dorsey?
Yes.
Dynamometer? Time for another quick break. Top 2 in GT, Patrick Huisman and Dirk Werner chasing hard. The Rolex 24 at Daytona is brought to you by Pirelli. Power is nothing without control. And a reminder at the bottom of the hour, our coverage continues on Speed, where we'll have over 15 hours live through the finish of this wonderful event, the Rolex 24 tomorrow. Race leader in the Daytona prototype class and overall, it's Matt Plum in the Siegel Sport. Dynan BMW, Riley, I should say. And as we flip back to the GT class, overall these guys are running in 26th and 27th, but it's first and second in GT. Patrick Huisman and Dirk Werner, he is the reigning GT champion.
Well, that Patrick Huisman is very lucky. There's Jimmie Johnson, current Nextel Cup, about to be Sprint Cup champion as he goes into this year and starts just practicing next week.
Are you getting the sponsor right, or are you giving him a 3rd title in advance?
3rd title in advance, yeah. He's got a busy week or 2 coming up.
He certainly has, but he really loves this. He missed this event in 2006, and he said that was enough to spring him back into life and get him back here, because he really, really wants to win this. It really is a tremendous event, and it's been quite a frantic start. Glad that you could be a part of Sports Cars on Fox. On behalf of Bob Varsha, David Hobbs, Dorsey, Schroeder, Calvin Fish, Chris Neville, and Brian Till, I'm Leigh Diffey. Thanks for watching one of America's great events, the Rolex 24 at Daytona.